Hello class, welcome to HSCD 510, the spring semester. I'm going to go through a course overview and a quick overview of how I think about research methods and my perspective on research methods. I'll talk a little bit about the assignments in this lecture, but as you'll see on the YouTube channel and in the assignments, I've also made separate videos that talks about each of those assignments a little bit more in depth. This is the only lecture in which I will keep my face on the recording so that you can see me. I did the intro video and I'll do my face in this one, and then the rest of them will just be the slides and my voice. So as I mentioned in the intro video and as is listed in the discussion topic, I would like for you to introduce yourself, give me a sense of your educational background, your research experience, if you have any, your career goals and what your research interests are and how you might be involved in research or use research as you move forward in your career. Tell me if you go by any other names or nicknames that you would prefer that I use. Tell me the gender pronouns that you use, and tell me a fun fact about you. So I gave you my fun fact in the intro video. So just tell me something fun or funny or interesting about you. Don't stress about this too much. I know some people get really nervous that it should be something really amazing, but it doesn't have to be. Make sure you post those by 124 in the introductions topic under the general discussions forum. So let's go over the course. This is a research methods course in a program that is largely not about research. This is one of the few courses that many of you will have unless you're dual degree, and we'll also do this in the School of Social Work. This course is designed to give you some really basic research skills so that you can access the research literature, understand and critically evaluate that literature so that you can look at news stories and be able to evaluate the research in that news story and then go back to the original research and evaluate the research in that way. For many of you who will go on and do either therapy or education, you'll want to be able to access the research literature to be able to make decisions about your own practices. So maybe you have a client who's experiencing a particular issue and you want to go to the literature and find everything that you can about that issue or treatment practices or things like that. And so this course is designed to help you be able to do that, to be able to help you understand that literature and the research to be able to implement that in your own practice. And I'll also, we'll work a lot on beginning to conceptualize research projects. And this is not because you'll do your own research projects, but because I think it's really important to understand how to think like a researcher. It gives you a much better sense of how to understand the literature and engage with the literature if you can also think like a researcher. So throughout the course, we'll use the Cottrell and Mackenzie textbook, and that's the second edition, Health Promotion and Education Research Methods, using the 5-chapter thesis dissertation model. Obviously, this is written for somebody who is going to be doing a research-based thesis or a dissertation, which you are not. So some of the information will be about how to write certain chapters, how to propose your research, how to engage with an IRB, an institutional review board, things like that. So some of it will be a little less relevant to you, but the basic content in that book is solid, and it's one that I have decided to continue using. I also want you to have the APA publication manual. It is really important that as you write every paper, every assignment in this class, that you are using APA format to the T. I'm a little bit of a stickler about that, although I know that there are points at which it can be a little confusing, but work through that. And any other readings that are in the syllabus will be posted on Campus Cruiser, and typically they're in shared files and also linked within the individual modules. So there are four primary assignment brackets. One is 2 module assignments, and those are basically essay sorts of responses. There are 2 quizzes. There's an article review, and there is a research proposal. Your research proposal is worth half of your grade, so that is the biggest portion that's broken out into a lot of different smaller assignments that will build to the final research proposal. Your module assignments, there are 2 of those that are worth 20% of your grade in total. The quizzes are also worth 20% of your grade in total, and there are 2 of those as well. And then the analysis of a research article is 10% of your grade. And so for the first module assignment, for the article review and for the research proposal, I have videos under those assignments where I talk about those assignments in much more depth. I'll talk about the research proposal a little bit here as well as in that video to give you a bit of an overview of that. The grading is pretty standard grading scale. And as you know, you have to get a certain grade to be able to stay in the program and stay off of academic probation. So this is not like an undergrad situation where you can get a C and still slide through. So the grading happens on a typical scale. The grading rubrics for all of the assignments are posted under the assignments themselves, so you'll get a sense of the points for those. In a system like this where I'm grading in percentages, the points are less, they mean less. Basically what we'll have here is your percentage on each of these portions, and then that will count for a percentage of your grade. So it really matters sort of the grades that you get on the individual assignments and not so much the number of points per se. So I'm going to go through course policies and just flip through the syllabus here. Course participation. This class is designed as an interactive, participatory, experiential learning course. And so you'll have to complete all the modules and participate in your own individual style in the class experience. I can look in the back end of Campus Cruiser and get a sense of how often you have clicked, how much time you have spent on each of the content areas. So the one thing I will say, and I will say this again in just a moment, is keep up. So if we are on module 3 in a particular week, you need to make sure that you've looked at module 3, that you have, within each module, I'll have all of the content. So I'll have the lecture video posted, I'll have a handout of the lecture slides, I'll have a link to any assignments that are due that week, and a link to any readings that are assigned that week. So everything that you need, you should be able to go through the course content week by week. You can flip through it all now. You have the added benefit of being in the second semester I have taught this, so all the content is actually done ahead of time. Class participation, professional demeanor. Obviously, you should all be professional. That should go without saying. I don't have any points in here for professionalism and class participation. But you can lose points in your overall grade if you are in some way failing to meet those expectations. And as I said a minute ago, you have to complete all assignments, participate in any discussions, behave in a professional manner. The one thing I will say, and I'll talk a little bit more about online courses in just a second as well, is that it can sometimes be difficult to convey tone in an online or email format. So just take a moment when you post something, when you send an email, and think about how that might be interpreted with others. For many people, research methods can be a somewhat frustrating course, and so when I get an email that is clearly coming from a place of frustration, I can see that in that email. And so while I understand frustration, I would really urge you to think about how that comes across to me when you're sending emails. And also extend that same courtesy to others by assuming sort of the most charitable light possible when you're interpreting other comments. Academic integrity and plagiarism. Don't plagiarize. I will do anything in my power to ruin you if I find out you are plagiarizing. When you turn everything in, you'll get a Turnitin report that will give you the percentage of overlap. Some of them seem very high. Sometimes you'll get something back that says 30% of your assignment is the same as something else, and that's often largely because of the references. So if you get something back that says 30% is plagiarized or overlap or from somewhere else, don't immediately freak out. You can look at the report and see where that overlap is, and I will also look at the report and see where the overlap is. And so if it's just the references, you're fine. You can't rephrase those in any way, but make sure that when you are discussing research articles that you are not plagiarizing. And I talk about plagiarism a little bit in the module where we talk about APA format, so make sure that you look over that. There's also a plagiarism quiz that is extra credit for the course, so make sure that you take that for a couple of extra credit points that are easy, fairly easy points. You don't have to pass it, you don't have to ace it, you just have to do it. So that's some basic academic integrity. And plagiarism information, lateness of assignments and extensions. So I can decide whether or not to grant extensions. Sometimes in the course of the semester, especially because I'm new and working out scheduling around teaching here and scheduling at a place that handles courses very differently, I may move assignments. So if a bunch of you email me and say, we all have class this weekend, can we move this back to Tuesday rather than a Sunday night turn in, then I will generally be fairly accommodating of that. If you email me and say, I didn't plan my semester well and I'm really busy this week, can I have an extension? Chances are that I'm going to say no on that, or that you can, but I will take off points for being late. So you can email me and you may or may not get an extension. And also, if you email me because you need an extension and you email me 20 minutes before the assignment is due, it's not likely that I'm going to grant that extension, or I will definitely take off points for turning in that assignment late. If you know that you're going to need more time for a particular assignment, if you know that you have something going on that week, email me with plenty of time so that I can say, all right, you're planning your time. I understand things come up, trips happen, conferences happen, work happens, life happens. I get that. And I do try and be fairly accommodating. And so just please give me plenty of notice with that, and let me know in your first look over the syllabus if you see any conflicts, anything that I should be aware of. Incomplete grades, that's again up to my discretion to give you an incomplete or not. And so if that is something that as we near the end of the semester that you think that you might want, email me and we will talk about that. Academic accommodations, if you need any accommodations, you should contact the Disability Services Office, and the contact information for them is on the syllabus. Make that request as soon as possible so that they can figure out what to do and make the necessary arrangements, and then let me know. The syllabus is already posted, but just obviously a quick note, we can always adjust the syllabus, so there may be situations in which I realize we need to spend a little bit more time on an assignment or a topic or something like that. And so if we do any revision of the syllabus, I will post a new one. I will probably post a video outlining what I changed and give you a really strong sense of what's happening and the revisions there. On the syllabus, there are also course resources for library assistants and the Writing Center. We'll spend a lot of time on writing over the course of this semester. And I actually, you'll have, as part of your research proposal, you'll turn in a draft of that before the end of the semester, and I will give you feedback on that. And for some of you, I may send you to the Writing Center to get a little bit of extra help there, but I will also give you a ton of feedback. So I'll talk a little bit about the research proposal. This research proposal is going to look like the introduction to an empirical research article. This is all information that's in the research proposal assignment and also in the video that I have done to go along with that. So you'll have that information in several different places. Your final paper should contain at least 12 citations. I would expect closer to the 20 mark, although there's certainly no maximum citations. This is not a literature review, so this is a very different assignment than many of you are used to. And while it's not a literature review, you'll need to actually conduct a fairly thorough literature review to be able to write the research proposal, and to even be able to propose a research question in the first place. You're gonna want to have a good sense of the research literature. So as I mentioned again, in a moment, you'll want to start that early. And this research question is the key component of your paper. It should be informed by the existing literature. And while it's posing hypothetical research, you're pretending that you'll conduct some research. The question should pose research that's actually feasible and ethical research to be able to conduct. I've also put a sample paper up on Campus Cruiser. This is from a previous semester from a social psychology class that I taught, but the assignment is the same. And so you can get a sense of what a good final paper looked like. And that paper is actually a paper that we are in the process of turning into a publication, because that was one of my students, one of my research assistants who proposed research that we could actually do with some data that I already had. So a quick note on feedback. I will give you a ton of feedback, probably a lot more than you are used to, probably through most of your academic career. and certainly from what I have gotten a sense, a lot more than you get a lot of your classes here. I use track changes in Word to give you feedback, to make edits. There are several videos on YouTube that you can look at to make yourself familiar with using track changes in Word if you don't already know how to do that. And you'll want to make sure that you attend those edits and those comments in any revisions that you do. This is primarily relevant for the research proposal. When you get those back from me, they can seem a little overwhelming. It puts them in red, it changes everything, moves everything around. So I think for a lot of people, those edits can seem a little overwhelming. I'm always available to chat and walk through all of the edits that I made and the comments that I made. I will also give you feedback in an Excel document that is the grading rubrics. So I'll try and summarize a lot of what I did in the Word document and track changes in that Excel document to give you an overview of my edits and my feedback. And so make yourself familiar with those. One other thing that I will say about the track changes is when you turn in a revision to me, make sure that all of the track changes are accepted, if the document is no longer in the track changes mode when you send it back to me. One other thing that I will say about online learning, this can be really challenging for you guys, for me as a professor. I know everybody is really into online learning, and I think it's fantastic that it allows you guys a lot of flexibility in being able to live other places and have a full-time job and do this on your own time. But this can be an incredibly challenging format. Probably one of the more important things that I think you can do is to keep up. Sometimes people go back and try and catch up and do like 3 weeks at once and then realize they've missed an assignment, they've missed an important announcement. So really make sure that you keep up over the course of the semester. Though it is all the materials online right now and already available to you, you'll want to make sure that you keep up on a week-by-week basis and are constantly checking in. Please, please, please don't hesitate to email me if you have questions, if you get lost, if you're confused about anything. Send me an email if it's a question that's probably relevant to the rest of the class. Post that on the discussion forum. I would also urge you to connect with your classmates. If you start asking your classmates questions and they don't know the answer, and then you realize that none of you know the answer, then that's certainly something that you're going to want to come to me with. Connect with them about the assignments, talk to them about the assignments. You can certainly ask your classmates to look over your research question, talk to them about your research question, about your research proposal, things like that. You'll all be writing individual topics, though some of your topics may overlap to some degree. So I would really urge you to connect with your classmates if you haven't already. Everything you need, as I said, will be in the course content modules and in shared files. Once again, keep up. It's one of the most important things I think I can tell you. I mentioned this in the intro video as well, but email is the best way to communicate with me. My time on campus is fairly unpredictable. I live in Philly itself, and so I don't come in every day just because it's a little bit of a commute and because my little dog is insane. It prefers for me to be home all the time, 24/7. I will have Google Hangout office hours, Wednesdays at 7, except for this first week, and Thursdays at 2 p.m. The Google Hangout link is posted on the syllabus. It's also in this first module content in Campus Cruiser. If it changes for any given session, I'll email a new link. Sometimes for some reason it just stops working. Sometimes Google Hangout just doesn't work altogether, although I've generally found it to be fairly reliable. The nice thing about Google Hangout versus Skype is that multiple people can join in, and so I think it's up to 10 people can join in. And so what will happen is I will just be up on Google Hangout and you can drop in and out if you have questions. I'll generally be there for about a half an hour, but if people are still on and need the full hour, I will stay on and hang out. I do Google Hangouts for my other class, sort of bookended along these Google Hangouts. And so email is the best way to reach me, but if you want to drop into a Google Hangout, those are the times that I will be there and available to have more of an in-person chat. And again, if you need me, please email me. So I'm going to say a little bit about my perspective on research as we go into this class together. One of the most important things that I think I want to convey to you and get across to you over the course of the semester is that methods are so important because they influence the evidence that we produce. I think I say maybe in another lecture, garbage in, garbage out. So if your methods are terrible, if you're not conducting your research in a way that is methodologically sound, the evidence that you produce is not going to be good. And so we often base educational practice, clinical practice on the evidence that's produced via research. And so we want to make sure that that research is conducted in a way that is methodologically sound so that we have the best evidence possible to make the best possible decisions about practice that we can. Do we always get it right? No, certainly not. But we try and do the best that we can and are constantly trying to update our research and conduct more research. And so one of the most important things that I can say to you is that the methods influence the evidence. And understanding methods allows you to understand the research implications and the conclusions that we can make about that research. And it also allows you to understand news reports about research. So the reading for this week asks you to look at a news story and then a researcher who breaks down that research a bit more and that news story a bit more. And so that hopefully will give you a little bit of a sense of why it's so important to understand the details of the methods used in a particular research, down to the fine-grained details of the actual numbers and being able to compare those numbers. So I also think of research, learning about research methods in particular, a little bit like filling a toolbox. So you want to be able to have as full of a toolbox as you possibly can, because you want to be able to consider and utilize a variety of tools for each task. And often in research there are not necessarily right or wrong decisions. We just want to try and choose the best possible method to us. There are often advantages and disadvantages to different sampling strategies, different measurement strategies, and we have to accept those disadvantages and try and minimize the disadvantages according to what we need and maximize the advantages. Your book talks a little bit about advantages and disadvantages of different strategies, and we'll go over some of those in class and lecture as well. So I really think of this in a very pragmatic way, that we want to have as many tools as we can and be able to make good decisions about which tool to use in which situation. And the purpose of that research and our research questions should be at the forefront of all of our research decisions. So are we generating knowledge about behaviors or beliefs? Are we trying to evaluate a program? What is the purpose of our research? And how does that purpose and the underlying research questions influence the methodological tools that we choose and the advantages and disadvantages of those tools? And I really think conceptual and applied understandings are key. Constantly throughout the course of the semester, I'll be asking you, what does it mean? What does this tell us? How can we apply this information? What do we do with this? And so really thinking about the concepts underlying these methodologies and how we apply them are going to be key things that I'm going to keep harping on over the course of the semester. So that's all I'll say about the course, the syllabus. Look over the schedule and all of the due dates. And make sure there's nothing wonky in there. Let me know if you have questions. Post your introduction and your any questions you might have about the syllabus or the assignments or the course. In Module 2, we'll dive right in and talk about the research process and selecting research topics. I strongly urge you to start thinking about your research proposal now. The topic ideas and search strategies are due February 8th, but you're going to want to be able to do a fair bit of research as you start to narrow in on your topic. And so you'll probably want to start now and thinking about what topic you want to do. Feel free to email me if you have questions as you start engaging with the literature on this topic. For many of you, you might have topics that you already know that you're interested in and have a fair sense of the literature on, but some of you might be starting from scratch. And so there's the modules already up on conducting literature reviews. Feel free to jump forward and look at that if you're not so familiar with conducting lit reviews and engaging with the literature. But I really would urge you to start as early as possible thinking about this project. As always, if you have questions or thoughts, post those under the general discussion forum. And I look forward to getting to know you this semester.